In this tutorial, we're going to be looking at 4 core exercises that are using weights that are not only good for the core, but also good for the spine. If you want to improve your core strength and stability, hit the link below, go through to my How to Build Core Strength and Stability 12-week online program. It's a beginner's program for 12 weeks, and then once you get to the end of the 12 weeks, it then opens up into the intermediate and advanced workouts, which start to use exercises like I'm going to be showing you today, that are using weights. Could be kettlebells, dumbbells, gym balls, resistance bands, so on and so forth. Exercise number 1 is where we're going to be throwing this kettlebell over the shoulder. Not literally, but what we want to be able to do is grab a hold of the kettlebell, or this could be done with a dumbbell, or any type of weight that you can hold on to. But essentially we come into this position, we bring it to one hip, we throw it over the shoulder and we drag it back down. So what we're trying to do is move the weight as fast as we can, but keep our body absolutely solid. So we come into this position, we are holding on to it, we're down here, and then we're up and over. So throwing the weight over the shoulder, obviously not literally, we would go one way and we would go the other way. Now what we're starting to do here is make our core, and it's the same with all of these exercises, we're making our core use all the muscles at once, or as many muscles as we can get working at once. So it's very much about using that speed, and the faster you, or the lighter the weight that you've got, the faster you can go. Because if you can move a light weight fast, that's going to be to your advantage if you don't have the heavier weights. If you've got a slightly heavier weight, you won't be able to move it as fast, but you'll do just as good a job. So it's not necessarily about the weight that you have, it's about how you do the exercise. The other thing that this exercise does, and it's again the same with all 4 of these, is you're starting to train what could be described as like an elastic strength. So it's the ability of your muscles to extend and then recoil, which is essentially how your core works. Certainly in a sporting and a more of a fitness environment, when you are moving weights faster, that's how your core wants to work. When you run, that's how your muscles want to work, all the way from your foot, all the way up into your torso. So you want to be getting this elastic type of strength, this ability to extend and then recoil, and get that nice and solid. So you can see here, as I throw over, I've got an extension, or an extended elastic band, if you will, from my right shoulder to my left hip. So I'm developing that ability not only up in my arms, but also across my body, from here to here, which is, again, would be helpful for something like running or kicking or whatever it might be, depending on the sport, or even throwing, depending on the sport that you do. So it's a great core exercise, and it's one that you can start doing with a lighter weight and just move it shorter distance, but nice and fast. All the core muscles will work, and you will get that elastic strength from it. Exercise 2 is very similar, but what we're going to be doing is we're going to be moving the body a little bit more. So we're going to be integrating hips and shoulders. So this is another thing that these exercises do, is they integrate the limbs and the torso that much more effectively, because what we want the core to do is transfer load or transfer force that are generated by the hips. So if we come, again, same weight I'm using here, we come into this position. Now before, I was throwing it over my shoulder and keeping my body facing forward. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to go a little bit more of a hinge, and I'm going to turn my whole body. So I'm making it a little bit more dynamic. So I'm starting now to integrate lower body and what would be upper limb. So lower limb and upper limb. Before it was just the upper limb. So now it's here, and again, because I'm moving a greater range of movement, I won't then be able to go quite as fast, but I still want to move per rep as fast as I can. So again, it's a little bit more explosive. Again, I'm still training that elastic strength, but I'm just integrating a little bit more the lower limb and the upper limb, and the ability to transfer that force from the from the lower limb to the upper limb. And then again, it's just a case of swapping over and going in the other direction. Again, you can see I'm keeping my foot planted here. If you don't have great range of movement of the hip, just open the stance out a little bit and turn a little bit more, so you don't need to use as much rotation from the hip. But essentially what you're doing is you're going through here, developing the ability not only now of the upper body as elastic bands, but also now the lower body of elastic bands. This is a much more efficient way of moving, and is a much, let's just say, safer way of moving for the joints, because it spreads load more around the body than traditional core exercises that might isolate muscles like sit-ups and crunches and side bends and those not so effective exercises. Exercise number 3, we're now going to come down onto one knee, and we're going to kind of be using the upper body again. So we come down onto one knee like so. I'm going to have a relatively wide stance. So if I go slightly diagonally, slightly wider stance, because I want a good base. This isn't an exercise like I may have said in the past, where we want a narrow base to focus on balance and hip stability. That's not really what we're looking for from this exercise. So we're then going to have a dumbbell or anything that you can hold on one end and another. You could use a kettlebell. I'm just choosing to use a dumbbell for now, just to show you another piece of equipment. Then we hold it here. So it's a little bit more of a stronger, more dynamic movement, sorry. And then we're coming up and over the shoulder. Again, we're rotating the upper torso, trying to keep the hips. So we're not turning the hips, we're just turning the upper torso to be able to get into that position. And then it would be a set of reps on one side, coming across onto the other side. Again, as you can see, I'm moving the weight faster because that's what I want from the exercise. I want that elasticity. I want to transfer the load. I want to minimize the load on my joints. So it's making not only the exercise more efficient and effective, but also making my body more efficient and effective. Exercise number 4 can be done in one of two positions. Down on the knees, so we're using again a little bit more of the upper body, but the lower body is still going to be involved. Or we can do it standing, so we can use a little bit more of the lower body and the upper body. So I'll show you both. So we're now going to again use a kettlebell. It doesn't have to be a kettlebell, could be a dumbbell. So we're going to go into this position. So I'm holding onto the horns with my knuckles facing forward, and then I'm using my body to throw the weight around my head and then back down the other side. So we're in this position, so it's throw up, round. So again, you can see I'm sort of using my whole body to whip it through. And what my core's doing here, like it has done in 2 of the other exercises, is it's staying relatively solid to allow the limbs to do their work. The only one where the torso was moving more was in the 3rd exercise when we were down on one knee. So again, what we're doing, we're not lifting the weight with the arms. I'm lifting it by going back, priming the elastic band at the back of here, and then letting that go and flinging it up. So it's round, and then I just guide it with my arms. Round and guide it with my arms. Round and guide it with my arms. So you could do that standing, and you can do that down on the knees. So this is now a little bit more involving the upper body because we're losing a little bit of the lower body, but we still do exactly the same. So it's still a little bit of a movement there. Up and round, up and round, up and round. So the movement is essentially exactly the same. You still have the whip to it, you still have the lower body working, and you guide it with the arms. The only difference being when you're on your knees, you lose a little bit of the upper body because you lose a bit of the momentum. So you have to use a little bit of the upper body to get the weight through. So those are 4 exercises that you could start doing. Again, find the right reps, find the right weight for you. But those are 4 exercises that you can start doing that obviously use weights, or they're 4 core exercises that use weights that are also helpful for the spine because we're taking load away from the spine and putting it on the tissues of the core. We're creating elasticity, which again is taking load away from the joints, putting it onto the muscles of the core and the fascial lines of the core, the tendons, so on and so forth. So we're spreading that load away, keeping the exercises good for the muscles, good for the joints, and minimizing any risk of spine problems, back problems, shoulder problems, whatever it may be. If you've enjoyed this content, hit the like button below or the super thanks. If you want to watch more, hit the subscribe button. And if you have a comment or a question, ask it below or leave the comment or question below, and I will do my best to answer it as quickly as possible.